these are campaigns that are being at least partially run from a foreign country seeking to restrict the civil liberties of people inside the United States who simply want to criticize a war happening 6,000 miles away. This doesn't seem like the type of thing that we should be really debating whether this is, acceptable or not. It seems pretty fair, not just that you're criticizing American foreign policy, but you're questioning another country. Why is this something that's being criminalized? But here we are.
Well, I think that, and I've been saying this to Jen for a while, I think that having Trump in the White House is, if we're ever going to rip off the Band-Aid that is American empire, it's going to come in the form of somebody like Donald Trump, because he really doesn't care. He doesn't care about protecting the infrastructure that is the federal bureaucracy of the United States government. And with that is fully understanding the scope in which the Israel lobby is controlled. If there is a central figure within the Israel lobby movement, it is Miriam Adelson. She is the queen who sits on the throne. And on top of everything else, and this is especially true when it comes to the GOP, we saw what the Democratic hawks did for the past several years. They really went after Russia relentlessly. They still do. But certainly with the GOP, China has been their source of, well, that's our enemy and that's who we have to focus on. Well, a little bit of inconvenience has been discovered, as I'm sure you're aware of. It turns out that Miriam Adelson, who has been involved, and this is according to Carl Jha, who's a very big content creator on X. Time for China to revoke Las Vegas Sands gambling license in Macau. Miriam Adelson is one of the biggest financial backers of Trump. She is the biggest financial backer of Trump. Sands derives 80% of its revenue from Macau. No sense allowing her to continue to rake in Chinese money. Cut off the head of the snake. Well, that's easier said than done. I bring this up, and if you could just scroll down, Colin, please. I need people to get a good look at what Miriam Adelson looks like. I want people to be able to see her, to recognize her. We'll get to the Dallas Mavericks in a minute. But I think that this is very important, that people know who the face of this is. I don't know if Colin is there or not because he's not responding, but he may be juggling a couple of things. But point being, I think that this is a much bigger story than people want to let on. If you're going to be as hawkish on China as you're claiming that you are, I would think that this is a pretty serious story that you would think people would want to be talking about. But it goes to the heart of the hypocrisy that is the American empire. It doesn't matter what the facts are. It matters what the narrative is that can be controlled. But this is not a narrative that I think can be controlled. What do you think about that?
I think it can absolutely be controlled, and it has been for the better part of a couple decades about what that relationship looks like. And I will say that I don't think it's as simplistic as Carl portrays it, which is that their license would be revoked. I think it's more a question of whether the Adelsons are going to once again step up to it possibly in this case to actually try to get the trading relationship back on track. Because during Trump's first term, they did play a very key role. Now, whether they did so because of pressure put on them or because they simply understood that it was in their own interest to keep the relationship on the tracks, they actually played a pretty major role in getting the Trump White House to walk back a trade war that appeared to be brewing with China at the time. And Trump actually credited the Adelsons explicitly for having walked him back. And that wouldn't be the first time that they've taken on that role or taken on a role in U.S.-China relations, because they also can do it in a more explicitly transactional way. And I would look back to Connie Brooks reporting in the New Yorker, I believe the article is called The Brass Ring, that talks about how did they get that casino license? Carl's acting like it was, we woke up one day and they had this license. That's not what happened. In 2000, Sheldon Adelson was interested in getting a casino license in Macau. The Macau's monopoly on the casino licenses that previously had been held by Stanley Ho was about to come to an end. There was going to be an opening up to international casinos and gaming companies. And Adelson wanted to understand what it would take to get in. So he went to Beijing. It was 1999 or 2000. He meets with the mayor of Beijing. Again, this is according to Connie Brooks reporting. And the mayor says, yeah, I mean, that's really interesting that you want to do this, and maybe I can ask around. But I have a problem. And my problem is that there is, I want the 2008, the upcoming, 8 years in the future, Summer Olympics to go really well for Beijing. And I don't like that there's a congressional statement of opposition, which you and I know means nothing, coming from Republicans in the
Well,
House.
wait a minute, Eli. You don't think a sternly worded letter from a congressperson makes change on Capitol Hill? News to me.
Well, in all fairness, this is the mayor of Beijing. He might not have, been aware of the gravity of this. But he was very concerned about it. And it was a statement of opposition saying that from the Republicans at the time, saying that they were concerned about China's mistreatment of religious minorities, particularly Christians. And again, like, I mean, if you were giving PR advice to the Chinese, you would probably say just just don't make a thing out of this. This is no one's going to notice that this statement goes out. But he didn't know, and he wanted it to go away. So Sheldon Adelson says, I can fix it. He takes out his cell phone. He calls Tom DeLay, and puts it down and says, Mr. Mayor, it's gone. And that supposedly really did help pave the way, according to, again, the reporting in the New Yorker. I may have gotten some of the details wrong. You should check it out. It's a great piece of reporting that led to or helped lay the groundwork for their acquisition of the casino license. I believe it is half of the casino licenses now in Macau are owned by foreign gaming companies. So the Sands Corporation, and I think this is kind of where it gets interesting, coming back to the topic of Miriam Adelson, their name is the Las Vegas Sands Corporation, but they have, I don't believe, any casinos in Las Vegas anymore. They sold the Venetian. Mm-hmm. And they are essentially an Asian and really a Chinese gaming company. As was pointed out, there 80% of their revenues come out of Macau. The other 20, or the better part of 20, I believe, come out of Singapore, Marina Bay there, which is largely catering again to probably to a lot of gamblers coming from China to play there. So yeah, I think the tension that's being pointed out here is exactly right. It's that, how does this exist? And I just wouldn't be quite as flippant to say that, oh yeah, they're going to yank your license. You can only do that once.
Right. And I think
you'd rather work with her to try to see what she can do.
Well, that's what it comes down to. Yeah. More than anything else, exactly. It's all about money and power. It doesn't, there are, again, I haven't seen the movie Network. I know that I should. But it's very true what Ned Beatty says. When you get to a certain level, there are no countries, there are no political parties. It's just the people who control everything and everybody else. And that's basically it. And Miriam Adelson is at that level of wealth where she basically can control financial changes within major countries. And that's a serious thing.
And there is a certain, I don't know if it's absurdity or an intrigue to the situation, which is that, and I think you've now sort of mapped it out, that, she's making her money, the family makes their money largely, it's a publicly traded company in all fairness, it's a public company in Macau, a special administrative region of China, largely with mainland Chinese gamblers coming there to play. So obviously they're highly dependent, not just on their gaming license being renewed. Otherwise, they have some of the largest family-friendly entertainment in Macau, which I don't think is going to be so profitable. But they also, the flow of gamblers across Macau does have a border with mainland China, so the permission to allow that many gamblers in. So they are highly dependent on a good relationship with Beijing. And so that's one piece of the puzzle. That revenue is being used to, in many respects, to fund the Republican Party's electoral efforts. And I'm not saying that like the money is being passed through in that sense, but this is the same person. You see where the money comes in, you see where it goes out, and clearly Miriam Adelson, again, from just her own statements, putting aside statements her husband's made, but her own statements, says that her priorities are Israel and prioritizing Israel's her definition of Israel's security and safety, which involves essentially ironclad U.S. support for whatever it is Israel wants to do.
We're going to play a short clip that I think crystallizes in a very effective way who Miriam Adelson is and what she's involved in. And again, everyone should know the name Miriam Adelson.
Maccabee Task Force is one of the groups that is behind the college campus crackdowns. And who's the top funder and leader of the task force? Miriam Adelson. Yeah, the person who's donated over $600 million to politics. That same lady. She owns a huge casino. That's how she has all the money to do this. Since 2015, she's donated over $70 million to the MTF to crack down anything in college campuses that criticizes or even questions our overlords. The ADL does it too. There's multiple organizations involved in this. These are non-government private groups that work in the same role as government groups. Miriam's $600 million to political campaigns, it gives her the permission and protection to do all this stuff. Money rules our system. Not democracy, not even our own government rules our system. A foreign government does. They bought the power and ability to control our college campuses. This is the reason why we have our college kids so brainwashed. Really, our government needs to retake control over its own governing and not allow foreign powers and dual citizens to govern our country.
Seems pretty simple. But at what point does the American consensus become, this isn't about red versus blue? We were having this conversation before you hopped on about how people are still stuck in that rut. This is about corporate special interests controlling our government. And it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Both parties are habitually owned, bought and paid for. They both have their billionaires. But this particular billionaire almost is willing to chance World War III in order to protect her passion project, which happens to be the state of Israel.